Hi everybody, this is Laszlo Vasco with Micro Adventures, and today I would like to review the 1930s Voigtlander SUPERB twin lens reflex camera. If you saw my previous episode about cameras of the 1930s, I covered Voigtlander in a little detail, including the history of the firm. And to summarize very quickly, the concept for the twin lens reflex camera came about by Paul Franke and Reinhold Heidecke, both of who worked for Voigtlander in the 1910s. They subsequently left and started their own endeavors and came up with the concept for a twin lens reflex camera based on previous stereotype of equipment, including from Voigtlander, that they then pitched to Voigtlander management, who declined to put that design into production. So they went ahead, formed their own firm, Franke and Heidecke, and came out with the Rolleiflex. This isn't the very first one. This is one from the 1930s, a quite modern design, especially since almost every twin lens reflex camera basically copied this basic design, having a film that goes vertically, sort of the way the focusing knob works, moving both whole lens assemblies in and out, and winding the film with a lever, etc. But Voigtlander, seeing the success that Rolleiflex was having, decided to then also, with a blank sheet of paper, come out with their own twin lens reflex camera. And 6 years after the launch of the Rolleiflex, they came out with this, the Voigtlander SUPERB. And it is a very unique camera, and in that they did not copy Rolleiflex. They decided to do their own approach to it, which differed significantly. So let's take a look at this in more detail, removing this quite handsome leather case that is in remarkable shape for being from the 1930s. And let's see. There we go. So if we take a look at this in a little bit more detail, one of the key differences is that instead of the film spooling vertically in the camera, it's actually horizontally. Hence the tool bulges in either side. And if I open it up, you could see that the, let's see, you can see how the two, this is the film spool, this is where the take-up spool goes, and the film then travels horizontally in the back of the camera. Hence the unique loading mechanism and unique shape of the two little bulges that give it a bit of an Art Deco look to it. And let's see. There we go. And it closes right back. Instead of using a lever to wind a film vertically, you used a winding lever. It's more similar to 35mm camera on the side to move the film. And it didn't have an automatic frame stop, so you were able to use the red window in the back to be able to be sure that you're on the right frame. However, it did have a frame counter, and that's this little window on top showing frame number 1 over there. And so what's interesting is, especially with the leather cover on the back, the leather cover only has a window for the frame counter, and it actually worked very accurately. So rather than looking at the back of the film through the red window, you just basically wound it to the next frame based on the counter, and that's correctly set your next exposure. And one of the challenges for twin lens reflex cameras is the parallax correction. Given that your viewing lens is distant from your taking lens, i.e. you're not looking through it like in a single lens reflex camera, the closer you focus, the more of a parallax issue you're going to have. So one of the design feature here is that inside the entire mirror box and lens slightly rotates in the Superb to be able to correct for parallax, which is, again, a very unusual and sophisticated design, given that this was more or less the second twin lens reflex camera that was designed and launched. So anyway, how was it shooting with this camera? I actually quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed, the way the film loading went, advancing the lever. It worked very effectively in terms of focusing for outside shots. On the inside, I would say that the mirror is now a little bit dim, but for outside framing, the view was perfectly adequate. So you control your aperture settings over here, which is quite interesting. And subsequently, you set your shutter speeding over here. And the shutter speeds go from 1 second to 1/500. And then this might not come out on the video, but the shutter speed lettering is actually backwards. So when you look at it, you might be confused as to why the numbers are backwards. And that's because there is a prism over here. So when you look straight down, you actually see your shutter speed in the prism the right way around. So instead of backwards, it's properly shown, 1/25th, 1/10th, which is a very novel feature. So instead of looking at your camera this way, as with many others, you're able to view it vertically. Of course, Rolleiflex had their own solution where they had a separate display for shutter speeds up on top. So equally, you're able to view your f-stop as well as your shutter speed from the top. And this was, Voigtlander's solution with the little unique prism, which is, well, just one of the quirks and unique features of this camera. So subsequently, you, let's see, where are we on? 1/25th, you cocked your shutter, and then you released. And then you released your shutter. Remarkable that it works so well. So that was one of the things I liked about it. Usually I try to, when I collect cameras, I look for ones that are in as best shape as possible. Obviously the Superbs are fairly rare. Not the rarest cameras per se, but fairly rare. Getting one in really nice shape is very rare. Getting one that is in good working condition is also fairly rare. This one is in great working condition. The lens is super crystal clear, and the shutter is just very smooth and accurate. The camera itself has been touched up a little bit, so cosmetically it is, well, let's just say it is nice and vintage looking. But it was certainly a joy to use, and worked very effectively. So I had a chance to use this camera on a trip to Maine this past December, visiting the mid-coast, going to Booth Bay Harbor, and then up to Rockland to a place called Clark Island. So let's go take a look at the images. This first one is from Booth Bay Harbor, and you could see the result with the uncoated lens. So you can see that there is sort of an indirect light shining right onto the lens, providing sort of a hazy look a little bit. But in reality, it's actually quite detailed and sharp side to side. And I was standing, there was a railing in front of me, and hence another effect of using a twin lens reflex camera. I did not realize that the taking lens was partially obscured by that railing. So that's hence this blurry area down at the bottom. But otherwise, it's a very sharp image side to side. And if I attempt to remove the haze or not even sure if adding more haze to it will improve it, but but sort of playing around with it, increasing the contrast perhaps a little bit, would really get this going. All right, so let's see some of the other images. Now this was at Clark Island, and it was an overcast day, so not quite the best for photography, but again, you could notice the sharp image. Now this is out of the camera as is, and it's actually quite nice. Has a great contrast. I used an ISO 400 film. Originally, I was intending to take pictures at the Owl's Head Transportation Museum inside, so I loaded it with an F400 film, which was a bit of a hindrance for outside shots, but regardless, the images came out quite nicely. And this particular one as well, you could see now the lens at a brighter aperture and the smooth background blur that it provides. One issue I noticed on this one and some of the subsequent images is that there is a scratch mark. I don't believe that's from the camera. It wasn't on these earlier images. Not that I can notice. No, it wasn't on these earlier images. So I believe this is from the lab, which is actually quite disappointing. Because otherwise, I actually do like this image quite a bit. Now with this one, I did play around a little bit to get a bit of a more punch to it. Let's see, just by slightly increasing the contrast, darkening the blacks. I actually added a bit of haze to it. If you remove the haze, it actually, I feel like it becomes very digital looking. So actually adding a little bit to it even increases that smooth film look that you get. And indeed, this is one of the advantages of shooting with medium format cameras, regardless of the age or almost regardless of the lens. But of course, Voigtlander were known with their scope part lenses, were known to be very sharp lenses. So you get a remarkably sharp image and with a very pleasant background blur. This is the final shot I wanted to share. Mushrooms growing on a stump. So I know that this one I did set at f3.5 to see how the lens performs at its widest aperture. And let me see, I haven't touched this one, so this is out of the camera as is. We zoom in a little bit, we can see that the hopefully I got the, yeah, it looks like I did get the focus fairly accurate, and it is a little bit soft, I would say. Now again, it's a medium format camera, so it actually looks quite sharp. Look at the sharpness on the ice crystals. But I think on this one, if we do increase the contrast just a little bit, maybe darken the shadows, and maybe that's it actually. And then I think we get a very nice image with the excellent sharpness in the center and a very smooth medium format looking transition to the background. And again, unfortunately, same sort of issue. So I do wonder if this was from the lab. You can see these splotches, which I imagine was from processing, which is frustrating. Darn it! I guess one of the things that you get, I might have to look for a different lab to process my images going forward. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Voigtlander SUPERB, and I'm going to make yet another episode with cameras from the 30s. I'm going to review both the Zeiss Icon Ikonta 645 folder and compare it to the Minolta Odo Semi that I recently shot with. I'm waiting for the film to come back from the lab. Please subscribe and take a look at the next one.